Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bree. I am part of the customer success team over here at commonsku, and I will be helping with today's shortcut to learning everything about Shops webinar. So first off, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on this session. As always, I've got a lot of content that I'm excited to show you, so I really do appreciate you being here. Now, before we dive in and take a look at the different shops that are available, I do just want to let you know that there is a questions panel of this webinar. If you happen to have any questions come up as I'm going along through the presentation, you can feel free to type them out in that questions area. If we're not able to answer you during the session, we'll definitely send you an email after the webinar, so we'll be able to get back with anything. Now, that being said, if you have any questions before we get started, that's also fine. Feel free to type them out in that questions panel. And again, if we're not able to answer them during the call, we will reach out afterwards. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about shops. So in case you haven't seen these before, shops are really a simplified store solution that are ultimately going to save you time and therefore money. Now, their templates are very similar to our presentations, and this means you can plug in your product details, choose design options, and then just send the shop out to your client. It's meant to be nice and quick. Now, most importantly, shops fees represent real orders, not potential orders. Shops are absolutely free to create, and their 2.5% transaction fee only applies to orders that are actually generated through your shop. Now, let's just get started with today's agenda. We're going to be covering a couple things. So we're actually going to be looking at the front and back end of every single shop type. We'll begin with the client experience. We'll then take a look at how you could be getting that set up, as well as how you will process the resulting orders. Once we've run through those shop types, we're also going to cover best practices. So things you want to keep in mind if you're currently working on some shops or if you're looking to get some created. So again, we're going to begin with a company shop. Company shops are great custom store solutions. Now, the really important thing about company shops, as we'll explore in a little while, is that every order placed through the shop makes a sales order inside commonsku. Next, we're going to take a look at pop-up shops. Pop-up shops are unique because they allow you to actually combine the different orders. So as shoppers start creating checkouts through pop-ups, you can later combine those into a single sales order for your client. Now, last one we'll take a look at, of course, is going to be the marketing shop. As it sounds, marketing shops are good for marketing purposes, so lots you can do with those, and then we'll wrap up with the best practices. So let's kick things off with the company shop. So as I mentioned, these are great for single companies. These are featuring pre-approved products, whether those are approved by the HR department or the location manager. Now, ultimately, because every order placed through the company shop is going to create a sales order in the system, you can ensure that these are going to meet supplier minimums and then are shipped out to the appropriate locations. Now, these shops are typically sent to your main point of contact or managers who are placing orders. But that being said, we'll take a look at how you can send shops through commonsku. So you do have a few options there. Now, as far as use cases go, these are perfect for welcome kits and restock type items, multiple departments or service locations, even franchise ordering. So again, because you've got those pre-approved products locked in, this is really just allowing the shoppers to pop in and order what they already know is good to go. So again, giving companies complete control of the products that are offered. Now, let's take a look at a company shop. We are going to kick things off with the client-facing side. So this is an example of a stock shop. Now, the first thing that the shopper is going to see is called a splash screen. This gives them details, lets them know how the shop is going to work. If we take a look at the right-hand side, there's also contact information. Now, in all of my examples, I am the shop contact, but you can actually customize this area. So if you have a point of contact at your client who is actually the better person for the shopper to reach out to, of course, you can have their details in here. Now, once the shopper actually clicks to start shopping, they're going to see our different design options. We'll take a look at these options when we explore the back end, but this is demonstrating something called a split theme, so one of the many choices you have. Now our shopper can click to shop now, and this is when they'll see all of the products that you have made available. Much like our presentations, you can add titles to shops. This is a great way to create product categories, makes it nice and easy for the shopper to navigate the different items. Now, when they hover over the products, they'll see some brief details, and as always, they can click in for more information. And you may notice everything in here is branded. That is going to be typical when you're making a company shop. I just want to remind everyone, we don't create virtuals inside commonsku, but I highly recommend uploading images with your client's artwork. It's just going to make it feel that much more personal. Now, when they're inside the shop, they see all of the product detail that you've made available. And I do want to point out that you are able to enforce minimum quantities here. So in this case, our client is seeing the minimum quantity and price point. This allows us to ensure that the final sales order is going to have enough to hit those supplier minimums. Another thing I've already factored in is all of the artwork charges. Once the client starts ordering through here, I want to be able to move it in production right away. So this is all set up on the back end. And again, we'll take a look at how you can do that. So from here, the shopper just simply clicks to add the products. Again, that minimum quantity is forced. If they try to order less, it's just going to let them know that needs to go up. So let's add some of the tumblers here. As I'm toggling through the products, of course, there are multiple images if you want to show all of the different options that are available. Now, I do want to point out we've got some different color choices for the pen. So anytime there are different size color options, when your client clicks to add them, they will need to select which one they want. Now, if we look at the very bottom here, the order total is currently excluding shipping, freight, and taxes. These are actually charges that you can wrap up into the total. So when your client clicks to check out, you could be displaying them in this area. In my example, I am not displaying them, but just so you're aware, that is an option. Now, if we take a look at the billing and shipping information, you've got some more choices here as well. So you can turn this into a drop down where they have to select their specific name. You can also allow them to add new contacts. So if this is an open-ended shop you want anyone to use, that flexibility is there. So that applies with both the billing, shipping contacts as well as the different addresses. Now, if we take a look at the right-hand side, of course, your client can add a comment. So if there's any final remarks they want to make before they check out, and then they can simply click to submit their order. Once that's done, they're going to see a little checkout screen. This is just letting them know about next steps. And again, in my example, I haven't included things like shipping, freight, and taxes. So I'm making it very clear to our client we will be reaching out with an invoice. So let's take a look at the back-end settings of this shop. So inside the company shop, the very first place we are is settings, and this is where we're going to get the general information captured. So first off, shop name. When you are creating your shops, you might be having a working name at the very beginning, so this can be updated at any time. If we take a look at the right-hand side, we're also defining the order rep. The order rep is the main point of contact for the order, and this does need to be a full commonsku user. Now, this person will actually receive an email notification whenever orders are being placed through the shop, so very important to have the correct rep in that area. Now, separate from that, we can have the shop contact. So when the shopper is actually looking at the store, if there is a better person for them to reach out to, this is where you can add that information. Now, in my example, I just had the client submit order, but you can turn this into a full credit card checkout. So again, you'd be collecting taxes at that point, and you can also add shipping. And below there is the splash screen. This is the information that your client is going to see when they open the shop, letting them know how it works. Now, I'm going to scroll through the other details. The same details apply to most of the different shop types. However, I will be highlighting the unique features of each one. So company shops do allow you to have a shipping charge in here, and this is based on the subtotal. So you can add a range in depending what different rates you want to use. So for example, if I want a minimum of $1 to, let's say, $100, I can add that range here and decide what I want that appropriate shipping charge to be. You can add as many ranges as you like. If we scroll a bit further, this is where we're defining the checkout option. So who can do the checkout? So again, selecting the different contacts as well as the different addresses, and you can choose if you want your client to select from a list, type those different details, or even take it a step further, and if they enter new contacts, you can actually add those to your client profile. It's a really easy way to get that built out. Now, finally, at the very bottom is that final checkout message, again, letting the shopper know the next steps. So those are the settings for our company shop. Next, we're going to dip into products. Now, this is the same as adding products to your presentation forms. We have our different databases available. I do want to mention, unfortunately, our Sage integration is not available through Shops. However, you can still use ESP and Distributor Central. There's also supplier collections to source from, and of course, your company database if you need to add any custom products. Now, once products are in here, you're editing them just like you would in a presentation. And I'd like to point out the minimum quantity you're selecting at this level is the minimum quantity that will be enforced for the shopper. Now, if you're not familiar with adding artwork locations, this is something that's on the presentation forms, but this allows you to build out the artwork detail. That way, if you turn it into an order, the information's already captured. This is definitely something you'll want to do with the shops. It's going to save you time when that sales order is created. Now, last thing to mention for this area is, of course, adding in those different titles. So great way to create product categories, makes it easy for your shopper to navigate their different options. Next, we're going to click into design. Now, design is the same across all shop types. There are 3 different themes that you can choose from. We'll be looking at examples of each one today. So the one that we previewed was with the split theme. Again, this is just going to be cutting the image in half. We also have the billboard theme, large image in a background. I'll be able to show you a more attractive example in just a little bit. And same with the featured product theme. So this is showing some specific items. Now, once you've selected the theme, you can choose the product list style if it's going to be a tile or grid option. Those are just 2 different layouts. And then you can also choose the accent color. Now, if you are opting to use a split theme, that accent color is also what's used on this right-hand side here. Few other changes you can make. You can change the name of the landing page. So this is separate from the actual shop name if you want some different detail to be here. And you can also decide what this button says. By default, it browses products. You can change it to shop now or whatever you like. Now, once this is good to go, it's just like our presentations where you can email to your client, but it actually is sending as a live link. So ultimately, your shoppers are just going to need this link to access their shop. It's up to you how you would like to distribute this. Once they have got this link, they are good to go. Now, once those orders start tiering in, of course, they're going to go down to the Orders tab, and this is where you can continue to manage things. So let's check out what one of the orders looks like. So here is a sales order created through the shop. Now we can still make updates. So if we need to change things such as capturing taxes or adding any additional products or services, that is still an option here. Now, depending on your relationship with the client, there's a couple ways that you could process this. Maybe I am actually going to email out the sales order and get that formal approval. Maybe I'm going to add those charges and turn this into an invoice right away and send that out. Of course, another option if you were taking credit card payment through the shop is your client would already have paid for this. In that case, an invoice would have already been created and sent to your client, and from here you can just move things into production. All right, so that is it for a company shop. Now, the next thing we're going to take a look at is a pop-up shop. So what's very special about pop-up shops is that they allow you to gather single quantity checkouts, so minimums are not enforced, and you can later combine those checkouts into one sales order to meet supplier minimums. Now, pop-ups are absolutely perfect for things like uniforms. So if it's school programs or spirit wear, of course, camp programs, gifts, events. So really any scenario that multiple people are going to need something and you want to ensure that you've got the correct sizes, quantities, everything that they're going to need. Now, let's take a look at a pop-up shop. So popping into this one here, I've got a pop-up shop, and this is for SKU Camp merchandise. Fun fact, I actually just created this from a supplier collection. So they did most of the work for me. I just added in the products, and that was all ready to go. So again, they're going to have the contact information. Click into Start Shopping. This is an example of the billboard theme. So we've got a nice large image in the background here, and you can click to Shop SKU Camp. As always, titles are at the top, honing in on specific product types. Now, if you hover over the products, you are going to get some brief detail, but I want to point out here, we are not showing different quantity options. And the reason is minimum quantities are not enforced in pop-ups. Ultimately, somebody can pop in here and add a single sweater to their order. That's completely fine. We're going to be able to combine it with other orders. Now, another thing I want to point out is the price that we're seeing. Pop-up shops have a special retail price. This is the price the shopper sees, and that can be different than what your client is paying you. So there is actually the potential for your client to be making money off this shop as well. We'll take a look at that on the back end. So of course, uploading multiple images, showing all of the different options here, and adding in all of the products. Now again, if we look at the bottom, this currently excludes shipping, freight, and taxes, but you can actually add shipping, freight, and taxes into the pop-up as well. So when the shopper clicks to checkout, they'll be able to see any additional charges. Now, aside from reviewing that order, they're also going to enter information. So by default, we need to know who it is and what their email address is, but you also get the opportunity to actually create some custom questions. Now you can make these custom questions required. So if your shopper tries to place an order without entering those details, you can see that I want this information. So in my example, I have mocked this up to capture shipping information. Now I do want to emphasize pop-up shops were created on the premise to shipping to one location. However, the use case has definitely been a bit different. So if you want to gather shipping information, it's great to do that as a custom question. And again, you can be adding shipping charges. Now you'll see at the bottom here, I've done the option to pay by credit card. So you can allow the client to pay by credit card. You can allow them just to submit the order. It's up to you, and it really depends on the use case. So ultimately, is the shopper paying for these products, or is your client going to be taking care of that? Now, I do want to mention, in the event that the shopper pays for the products, they will actually receive a paid receipt. So this is going to be sent to whatever contact email they entered, just giving them a recap of their order and confirming it was in fact paid. All right, so let's take a look at the back-end settings of the pop-up shop. Very similar to company, so I'm only going to highlight the main differences here. So first difference is going to be the billing and shipping information. By default, this assumes that it is shipping to one location, so we don't have the option to add multiples. To be honest, you probably wouldn't know the shopper's locations anyways, so just get the relevant location here. Of course, splash screen, letting them know how the shop works, also the shipping charge, so same as we saw in the company shop. Now, if we look in the checkout options, you can decide if a tax is going to be applied to the shop. Now, because this assumes it is shipping to one location, you can only apply one tax to the shop. This is absolutely perfect if everybody is in the same province or state because it's going to be the flat rate. Now, you can also decide, are we charging tax on shipping? Depending on where you're located, you may or may not need to. Selecting if credit card checkout's available, and also setting a checkout limit. So if you're using pop-ups for things like employee gifts, the employer might actually have a limit on what they want people spending. If you don't want them to exceed that amount, you can set that limit here. It will not allow them to exceed it. Below there, we've got those custom questions. So type out the question, building out the list here, and then you can decide, is this a text field where the shopper enters information? Is it a select field where I actually have details? And if so, you can build out what those different selections can be. And then taking it a step further, is it mandatory? Do we need the answer? Now, these questions can be helpful for you. In my example, that's helpful so I know where to ship to, but these can also be helpful for your client. So it's important just to think about if there's any information they are going to need. So for example, with camps, you might be asking for cabin numbers. Now, ultimately, pop-up shops have an exportable CSV file. We are going to take a look at it, and it's going to have all of the shopper's details. At the end of the day, that's how your client is going to know who ordered what. Now, aside from that, kind of business as usual, we've got the checkout message here. The next thing I'm going to pop into on the left-hand side is products. So same as adding products to our company shop, but with one key difference. That key difference being that pop-up shops have the retail price. So again, the retail price is what shows to the shopper, and that can be different than what you are actually charging your client. So there is the potential for your client to be making profit on this shop, whether they're actually keeping that profit, maybe it's going towards some sort of charity or donation cause. Now design, same design option. So again, this one is featuring the billboard. Now, ultimately, the pop-up is also sent out as a live link. It is up to you how that is distributed. And once the different shoppers start creating orders, they are going to tier into this orders tab. So first we have a checkouts staging area. Normally, you're actually going to allow these checkouts to build up. So maybe our shop is open for 1 week. Over that 1 week period, I'm going to allow everything to build up in here. And then at the end of the week, I'm going to select all of these checkouts and actually create an order. That is what combines everything. Now you can also see the checkout details, and this is ultimately exportable as a CSV file. This lets you know who ordered what, ultimately what they paid. This information is going to be useful for your client. Now, once the order has been created, it's going to tier here into the orders tab. So let's take a look at this. So here we are with our sales order. Now, depending on how this pop-up was created, you could still make changes to the sales order. So for example, if you weren't capturing shipping through the shop, you can add that shipping charge in here. You can also make changes. So perhaps at the end of the day, your client is actually footing the bill for this. Maybe you're not taking payment through the individual shoppers. You can add any additional charges or even add additional sizes for your client. That actually is a popular thing that's being done, is just encourage your client to have a bit of a buffer. Maybe someone ordered a small, but a medium is going to be more comfortable. When the products arrive, they can know for sure, and it's great if your client has backups. Now, if we just take a look at the checkout section, this is showing the information of everybody who has placed their order. So this is still another area that it can be viewed or exported. Ultimately, when you go to send this sales order to your client, it will have that CSV file attached as well. So it's there for reference. Now again, next steps are going to depend on the circumstances here. If you've already collected payment, you're probably good to move this into production. If you're taking payment from your client, maybe you're going to send the order, or maybe you're going to create an invoice. That is up to you. All right, so that is it for the pop-up shop. The last one we are going to take a look at is going to be the marketing shop. So as it sounds, marketing shops are meant for marketing. These help you reach your existing client base, but they can also help to attract new business. Now, these are designed to show a curated selection of products. So they really are meant for things like niche markets. Now, lots of ways to share your shop. You can be sending this in an email blast, embedding it on your website, or adding it into your email signature. That's a great way to let your clients, and again, prospects, know what is available. So last up, let's take a look at a marketing shop. So for this example, I've created a marketing shop for National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I know this was back in October, but this is one of my favorite shops to demonstrate. So in this example, I've actually created it as a little bit of a fundraiser. Maybe some proceeds are going to be going towards a good cause. Now, one thing that's common to add at the bottom of marketing shops is maybe just mentioning, other store solutions are available. Your clients might be popping in here and could be interested in what they're seeing. Maybe they'll wonder if you can create something a bit more custom. Now, I want to point out this is the final design option. So this is the featured products theme showing specific products that we have selected. And again, client can see all of the options. Now, with the marketing shop, you'll notice when they're hovering over, they can see those different ranges. And that's ultimately because we are also enforcing minimums with this one. Any orders placed through the marketing shop makes a sales order inside Common SKU. We want to make sure that it's hitting any required minimums. Now, in my example, I have added some artwork charges if I've already defined how this is being decorated, but the marketing shop is really open-ended. When we take a look at the order, we'll talk about different processing options, but there could be different decorations that your client can use, and it can turn into a little bit more of a dialogue. So as always, multiple images are available. I should actually also mention this shop was created entirely through supplier collections as well. So just looking at suppliers that had breast cancer awareness products, that's what I was able to use for this. Now, when the shopper clicks to add the product, minimum is still enforced. Oh, I should probably type the minimum. So minimum is still enforced. And in my example, I've included these additional charges. Now, I might not know who the shopper is. This could be a prospect and we've never done business together. So they are actually able to load their artwork directly to this shop order. So let's just pop a logo in here. Now, once they get that loaded, they can continue to shop. And if they want to add it to products moving forward, just so you are aware, it is going to be saved for their reference. So they can continue using the same image. They can upload a new one, that's up to them. Now with this, it is excluding shipping, freight, and taxes. And when the shopper clicks to check out, we are not adding those charges on. The reason is, again, you might not have a relationship with this person. So we don't know what shipping is going to cost. We also don't know what the relevant tax is going to be. So ultimately, once they fill out this information and they submit the order, we're then going to take a look at how that's processed on the back end. So just skipping through to the final order stage, we'll cover these last tabs in a minute. It is going to go to a checkouts area. So this is kind of another stage that you can tier where this order belongs. So for example, when you click into an order that was created, the system's going to tell you if this matches an existing client. If so, that's perfect. Assign it to that client profile and you're good to go. However, in the scenario that this is being created by a complete prospect, you can also make new clients through this area. So that's going to make a brand new profile in Common SKU. As soon as that's done, it is going to turn into a sales order. So we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Before we do, let's run through these other sections. So just beginning in the settings area, this is probably the most basic settings that you're going to use. So again, splash screen, let them know how it works. Checkout message lets them know about next steps. When you're adding in products, just keep in mind that whatever is the lowest quantity is what's going to be enforced in the shop. Design options, same as always, and sending out is the same as well. So ultimately, this is going to send as a live link, which is why it can be used in so many different ways, whether embedding on your website, adding to your signature. All right, so let's take a look at this resulting sales order. So I've got the sales order in here. With the marketing shop, there are still changes I'm going to want to make though. So definitely wanting to add tax to this one. And depending on the type of artwork your client uploaded, you may need to have a little bit more of a conversation. I want to point out they can upload any image type, and that might not be compatible with the type of decoration that's available. On the other hand, there could be multiple decoration options. Maybe you want to know which one they prefer. That's also a good time to be able to upsell a little bit. If you can do multiple locations, recommend complement products, that is completely up to you. So generally speaking, the marketing shops are going to be sent out at the sales order stage, probably still going to be some communication before everything is finalized, but this is a great way to get some new business generated. Alrighty, so that's it for the shop types. The last thing to look at is going to be some best practices. So our first best practice is actually to start with a presentation. I know that sounds funny, but presentations can be copied into shops. The reason it is a good idea to start with a presentation is because maybe you accidentally create the wrong shop type. You can simply go back to that presentation and copy it to a new one. Or perhaps the shop was such a big success, your client wants to use some of those same products in a new shop. Rather than having to add them from scratch, you can go to that presentation and use what you already built out. Second best practice, collaborate with suppliers. We're going to take a look at this in just a second, but a lot of my shops were branded. I did not do all of that myself. So if we're working in a presentation, not only can we reach out for product ideas, we can also reach out for virtuals. Now third, and I guess I already hinted to this, is copy your existing forms to shops. You can copy presentations, estimates, and sales orders to your shop. So if you've already got something great that your client is reordering, use that. You don't have to start from scratch. So let's take a look at an example of the collaboration option. So just popping into here, I have a project that I created and I collaborated with some suppliers. So I reached out to Garrett with Fossa, asked him for some product ideas, gave him my client's artwork, asked him for virtuals. I did the same thing with Cody at Snugs. Now what this ended up producing is a completely branded presentation that I can send out to my client. So I can send this to the client, they can let me know what products they're interested in, and when things are good to go, I can just copy this presentation directly into a shop. So if we pop into the shop that's here, as far as the products, a lot of the work is already done. Depending on the shop type, definitely still want to pop in and make some final edits, just make sure that everything is good to go. But if we take a look at all of these images, I didn't make these. Okay, this was Cody and Garrett or whoever was kind enough at their team to help me out with this. So they saved me a lot of time. They can save you a lot of time. If we just take a look at the shop itself, again, going to be nice and personalized for the client, but again, not all on my shoulders. So just allowing suppliers to do the work for you and having that simplicity of copying your forms. Now, the very last best practice I have here is actually just to check out our one-stop shops page. This is going to be inserted in our help articles shortly. It's also going to be available as a link through this actual YouTube video. In case you haven't seen it before, our one-stop shops page has different demo shops that you can be playing around in. So you can test shops in here. Quick how-to videos. These are 7 minutes each about each shop type, so simple to get through. And at the bottom, they have got some great resources. So we have our different blog posts here, such as the keys to unlocking or locking the most profitable shops blog series. Well, of a mouthful. Bobby's got that one though. So these are excellent. If you have not already read them, I highly recommend checking these out. Also, Shops Talk. So this is just great to find out how shops have impacted other distributors' experience, how they can work for you. Now, in terms of support resources, of course, you can always be using the help articles. We've got plenty of shops help articles available. And if you can't find what you're looking for, we are always available through support. So just let us know what we can do. All right, everybody, thank you so much for your time. If there's any questions that went unanswered, I will be sure to reach out with answers shortly after our call. In the meantime, if any questions pop up afterwards, please just reach out to us at support. We will be able to get back to you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I know it's early, but I'm going to wish you a happy Surrogate Friday. I hope everyone has a great weekend. All right, thank you for your time.